I was a glass imitation of a child, consciously joyful. I was a rag doll robed in silver silk. I was fetal outside the womb. I was unformed. I was half finished. The first time I got nits, my mum noticed me itching at breakfast. She plaited my hair really, really tightly and sent me off to school. When I came home, she took me straight to her bathroom. I always called it her bathroom, not hers and Dad's. There were a million different coloured glass bottles lined up on her vanity. And there were little light bulbs around the mirror. It always felt so glamorous. I would sit on the edge of the bathtub and watch her get ready, breathing in the musk of her perfume and hanging on her every word. This was not one of those days, though. She sat me in front of the mirror and covered my hair in something that smelled like mint if mint were made out of chemicals. The smell clung to the back of my throat. So she took a metal comb and divided my hair up, dragged the metal through each section, and then occasionally would wipe the comb on a towel. I remember seeing all these little black dots searching for the skin they called home. You would find me in a towel. It seemed like it went on for hours. My scalp was red, raw, after. I got nits again. A year later. They had to send me to the school nurse. My dad didn't know what to do without her. I always found it weird how he never changed anything in the house. 5 years, 10 years, every photograph remained in place, every vase perfectly positioned with fresh peonies. Her favourite. Her blue china tea set laid on the table. It was a museum of who she used to be. My dad moved a sofa bed into the study. It's always been her bedroom. I never went in there again because I knew he'd left it the same and I couldn't bear to see that. Sometimes I'd lie awake at night listening to see if he would sneak in there, but I never heard him. After I moved out, I never went back there again. Time passed and life happened. I've been happier since then. Sometimes I dream about her perfume. Sometimes I lie awake at night, curling my limbs around the hole in my chest. Only sometimes. It was after the big night out. I find myself getting sober off spaghetti hoops and seeded wholemeal bread till my body drowns in the delight of everyone around me shedding water for the way that I feel, but strangely I feel nothing at all. A collective hysteria of white noise I thought only existed in paintings of the Blessed Virgin. I'm not a virgin, I'm a big girl now, so I'm told. The only changes I see are boys want to touch my tits and I'm saying longer words without understanding their meaning. And I never realised that a post-it note of I love you sticks quicker when said with force or drowned in drunken echoes. My state seems fractured. Implausible even. Humans should not feel this elated in real life. I am a big hole on fire. I am meeting the parents for the first time. I am day drinking in the Sahara Desert. I'm actually passed out in the bathtub from inhaling bubbles and fairy cakes. I never noticed that fly on the mirror rubs its hands together when it watches me sing. I wonder if it's controlled by the government. Then again, who wants to hear me sing? A tadpole bobs its head along to my same tune. I pat its head because it deserves recognition for trying its best. I think we may be soulmates. It's like one big party in here. I don't want it to have to end. On a more important note, I think Mr. Billy Big Bollocks hates me. Although he says otherwise, he's squaring up behind the glass with a line of lead for an eye like something forgotten from an underfunded horror movie in the 70s. Silly bitch, he answers. What do I care anyway? I'm a pansy pushing up daisies and you're just a mean old bully. I have the tadpole and the fly. What more do I need? Plenty more fish in the sea. I suppose it's all relative. Hatred and love are both equal in the eyes of obsession. I'd rather spend my time musing on better time spent here. When I actually felt like a functioning member of society, as they say on television. When I cover myself with chip fat and dead stones, and part of me would tell stories that made the other half laugh. I haven't laughed like that in a really long time. It was right then that my phone rang. I picked it up. He's dead. And I waited to feel how I felt the first time. I waited a really fucking long time, but I still felt hollow and delirious, but I couldn't find any more sadness. Can't find any more sadness. The tears have been cried out already. I have nothing left to give. I feel very small. Record time, she said with a smile on her face as she handed me the last piece of paper. Her lipstick was the colour of a fire truck and almost perfectly matched the colour of the estate agent's sign. I don't know why I noticed that. My name didn't look like my own when I wrote it. The curves of the letters seemed off. I think I've just been writing my name too much recently. Telling people who I am and how I know him. Yes, that's me. Yes, it's very sad. No, I'm not. Yes, no, of course, thank you. I've been stuck in a glitch in the matrix. We moved in for a week to help clear it out. Mr. Billy Big Bollocks and I have been staying in my old bedroom. I emptied it long ago, but there's still a little girl lingering in the bare corners. I keep having dreams about being buried alive with her. As the roof of our home collapses in on us. I'm allowing myself one cardboard box. I spent a day wading through my father's jungle of books, his letters, his dirty laundry. There wasn't anything I wanted to keep, just tattered paperbacks by communist writers and travel books for countries he'd never been rich enough to visit. I found an album, half full of photos of my father at school. The pages were marked where the other half of the photos used to be. Little, age-faded squares. His 20s were missing. Years he'd spent with her. I put it in the box because it seemed like the kind of thing he would want me to keep. I had a fire in the garden and burnt all. His letters, her letters, their letters. Illegally sorry, so much foreclosure, turquoise heartbeat, never certificate. Our life confidential in between, you know, but don't did. I try not to read. Smashed up one of the garden chairs and burnt that as well. I'm not sure why. I spent a day taking down picture frames, put the pictures in a box, pile of smiling ghosts. In one of the picture frames I found a second photo, slipped in behind the first, forgotten. It was her, on a beach, smiling, barely younger than I am now. I've never seen her look so beautiful. From her blue china tea set, I kept one teacup. I don't really drink tea. I threw out all the mouldy peonies. I binned all the accumulated crap that seemed to be in all the drawers of pens and pennies and rubber bands and crumpled up notes of, I left your lunch money on the table. I kept finding marbles in those drawers. I don't remember any marbles from before. I donated all of the kitchen stuff. And suddenly the house seemed so empty. When I opened the door of her bedroom, I wanted to experience that beautiful Hollywood cliche of harmonious communal with the person who's gone. Optimal peace. I wanted to be disgustingly happy. The reality of air that has lain still for 20 years is claustrophobic and dirty. Too thick to breathe. I let the sunlight in, but there wasn't much of a breeze. The room is strange to look at. Everything's so immaculate and dusty. I sit on a bed and a cloud billows around me. I wonder if they fucked in these sheets. Pounded their sweat into them and wiped their sticky fluids on them when they finished. Did he ever change the sheets? Could he bear to? Oh, my imagination's gone too far. Oh, I feel sick. I let the sunlight into the bathroom. The bottles are perfectly lined up. Candy-coloured glass. Faded by age just a little. I bleach a lifetime of abandonment off of the bathtub. Wipe any residue of fingerprints away. I turn on the taps. The bathroom always felt so peaceful. There's something ritualistic about sitting on the floor, listening to the gush of the taps. Pleasant anticipation. Counting the seconds until it's full. Savouring the cloying taste of steam in your mouth, sitting on the tongue. Today the steam smells faintly of decay. Bleach. Sometimes when I look in the mirror, the face I see isn't mine anymore. There's a mask that slipped ever so slightly and the person behind it isn't someone I know. The absolute silence when you turn off the taps. The sudden absence of water that you've become so accustomed to. Sound of the surface breaking. Rhythmic ripples. The delicate slide of porcelain on bare skin. The burning warmth that envelops your body as you sink down. It makes me feel so safe. No one can touch me here. I am absolutely alone. I can float slightly and drift away. Imagine I'm lost in a great ocean, flowing with the whim of the current, powerless and content. I can picture the changing skies I'd see. Purple storms, grey rains, pink sunsets and golden sunrises. Primary blue of a perfect summer's day. I could exist like that forever. Counting days by the path of the sun and counting months by the crescent of the moon. won't have any need for years. Ageless, timeless, a creature of the tides. I grow lotus flowers in my hair and lie naked on rocks with the sea spray sparkling on my skin like a siren in a Renaissance painting, luring fools to their deaths with the vapid sexuality oozed by all women in mythology. I sink down and watch the bubbles rise to the surface, obscuring the beams, crossing the ceiling, distorting the paths of light beneath the water. She cradles me, keeps me safe and deep and warm. I think I belong in the water. It's where I feel most at home. The door opens and I break the surface, gasping for breath. Mr. Billy Big Bollocks is here. Can I join you? No. I say yes. I sit up, he undresses and climbs in. It's a big bathtub, but there's not quite enough space. We press against each other in a tangle of slick limbs and it's vaguely uncomfortable. There's a stickiness to the feel of someone else's submerged skin. He kisses me. He strokes my hair. He pulls me down on his chest and I count his heartbeats. His fingers skim over my body. 331 heartbeats later. He asks me if I'm okay. He says he knows it's difficult for me to be back here now that he's gone. I want to tell him that it's about her, not him, but I don't think he'll understand. He says that he's here for me. He says we can go stay in a hotel if I don't want to sleep there. I tell him that it's fine. I tell him I want to be here. I want to tell him that I can't leave because once it's sold, she'll be gone. The mausoleum ransacked. I want to tell him I need to savor this. I don't. I sit up, turn the tap on. The gush of water returning makes me feel like a calmer again. The air slowly fills with steam. I focus on the feeling of water on my skin. An undulating wave of its reach. I focus on being present. This bathroom is just another bathroom now.
I remember the first time someone called me half-caste. I was 11. It's that age where you're catapulted from the comfort of your tiny primary school into the big bad world of high school. And there's more strangers around you than you've ever known. You hear new swear words in the corridors every day, and you very quickly learn what stale smoke smells like from the way it sticks to the graffitied walls of the girls' bathroom. I went to a pretty much all-white high school. It's just a demographic where I'm from. It's not something that ever bothered me much. I knew I was brown. I'd been called names before. Silly names though, children's names, usually comparing my skin tone to chocolate. In a friendly way, joking way, in a sort of way that expressed jealousy as opposed to racial hatred. I never really minded, it's just a fact, isn't it? I can't remember this girl's name, but we were in PE and she came up to me and asked where my parents were from. It was a question I used to get asked all the time, and I thought it was silly that people cared, but Mum said it's just because they were interested, and I think at this point I kind of liked that my skin tone made me individual. So I answered her politely, and then she said, "Oh, you're half caste." She walked away. And the pit of my stomach fell to the floor and I felt shaky and I didn't know why, and that word stuck in my head for a while. For the whole day. And the day after that. And into the following week. And the next week. And on to the next month, and the month after that, and on, and on, and on, and on. I didn't feel like half anything. I didn't feel less than anybody else. I couldn't point to the other half of me, the half that's missing. I googled half caste. Caste comes from the Latin word castus, castus meaning pure, so I'm half pure and half what? Brown is the colour of dirt, of mud, of rotten fruit, of refuse, of impurity, and white is the colour of purity, of holiness, of cleanliness, of superiority. That's what they were trying to say. That word still pops into my head a couple times a week just to remind me not to get too confident. I'm seen as half as pure as the girl standing next to me because my skin colour is a handful of shades darker than hers, and other people probably think like that and say that when they see me pass the street, but I know most people probably don't think like that, but some people do, and they could be standing right over there. And I have to look in the mirror every time to remind myself that I've got 2 arms and 2 legs and 2 eyes and 2 ears and 2 hands with 10 fingers and 2 feet with 10 toes, just to remind myself that I am everything a person needs to be, and that word, it doesn't make me any less whole. I've got 100 other memories like that. And they never seemed like a big deal at the time, about not being able to wear nude tights or struggling to find the right lipstick shade. I remember when I realised that I had never seen a movie with an ethnic lead that wasn't about an ethnic country. And plasters, that used to really upset me. A rectangle of pale nude that stamped the otherness of my complexion onto my skin. It used to make me feel so uncomfortable. Still does. I'm an adult now, but I still buy kids' plasters. You know, the ones with the little colourful pictures on them? They're just little things though. And these things have changed now, right? Consciously changed. They're little complaints that have been rectified. But they're nothing on what other people experience. what actual racism is like when it affects how you live your life, when it causes brutality and death. There are real problems in this world, and complaining about anything else, it feels like some first world Gen X bullshit. But I'm not complaining. I'm not trying to take away from others that experience it worse than me. I'm just trying to tell you what it feels like to be me. How my skin tone has coloured my life. My friends used to call me this name in high school. It's actually pretty fucking racist, but at the time I didn't think they meant any harm by it, and none of us knew any better. I don't think anybody knew what the word racist actually meant. It's the innocence of childhood, right? I never thought it did any harm, but it made me feel different. It was a prefix, my name, that reminded me of how the world perceived me. Subconsciously that might not be great, but it's not a big deal, right? Do you remember when everyone used to wear really orange foundation? And you could see a line at everyone's jaw. Stag lines, we called them. I remember going into Boots to buy foundation for the first time, and I really didn't need to wear it, but I wanted to be like everybody else. I remember going into the shop and looking at all the shades. It was a small shop, and every brand had about 3 or 4 shades of pale nude, some in a darker orangey tan, and one in a darker brown. But my skin colour, it was entirely skipped, so I used to wear this really orangey stuff that almost definitely looked stupid, but everyone was doing it, so what the hell. I remember when Rihanna brought out Fenty Beauty. I remember watching that trailer and feeling represented in an unfamiliar way. Women of every ethnicity, a foundation in every shade, created for everyone. I mean, I couldn't afford Fenty, but Sleek brought out a copycat line soon after, and I used to wear that. Rihanna changed the game. The world of makeup got better after that. But it was never that bad to start with, right? I think I felt more excluded from the Indian community than I ever felt at school. The world that I was alienated in was one full of a language I didn't speak, heavy in scents and foods that I never knew the names of. So I resented the assumption that brown was who I was, who I am. There's a whole other story there that I'm not ready to tell yet. But I think the assumptions were the worst part growing up, and I'm talking about the assumptions that people make about who you are and who your parents are based on the colour of your skin. I mean, you look a certain way, and that immediately ties you to a culture you feel you have no connection with. Where are you from? Answered and followed by, no, where are you actually from? Originally. You know, ethnically. Fuck off. I used to work as a waitress and I got it from older people a lot. After questioning me about where I lived and my place of birth, just down the road from here in Glasgow, and then my nationality, British, one woman went as far as to ask me, No, what actually are your parents? And I worked there, so I replied politely and walked off with my tray of canapes. But those words stuck in my head for a while as well. She made them sound like they weren't human. I don't think she clocked that I'm half white. They were a different species to her. I was a different species to her. What actually are your parents? I don't know, fucking aliens? That woman really annoyed me. And there was an old man at the same time at a garden party. He stood up, he pointed at me and half shouted, "You're an Indian." And I've never been so angry in my whole life. And I really wanted to walk over to him and smash the plate of tiny little sandwiches into his face, but I needed the job, so I didn't. I simply said yes and walked away, because talking to him, to correct him, it would have been too much effort. Later he asked me what part of India my parents were from, and I said I didn't know. I know it's not much, but it happened over and over again, and eventually it gets under your skin. I don't mind people asking, but why does it have to be the first thing? It happens a lot on dating apps. I think they mean it as a compliment. I should be flattered, right? But eventually it becomes something you resent. You didn't choose it. You shouldn't have to talk about it at the start of every first date. The word exotic, it makes me feel sick. I'm not a fucking zoo animal. My skin tone isn't the first thing that I am. I remember when a boy said to me, "I didn't think your nipples would be brown." And that made me feel weird. Because it implies that the image that he had of me naked in his head was whiter, paler, rosebud pink nipples on tan skin. When I was older, a boyfriend said the same thing about the colour of my gums. I've never thought about the colour of my gums before. I think telling me my skin is beautiful, it's a hard one to word for some people. Sometimes they make me feel like I'm attractive because of my skin tone rather than my skin tone being attractive because of me. Can you see the difference? It's all just objectification though, isn't it? Every woman goes through it. It doesn't make my story unique. It's nothing special. I got an Uber recently. It wasn't far, but it was late and I don't like walking home by myself at night. An Uber just seemed like the safe option, but 5 minutes into my 3-minute trip home, I realised that I should have walked. The driver wouldn't stop talking. talking at the sort of speed that coked up people talk at. He told me he was from northern India and all about the individual language that we speak, and being annoyed that white people think that we all speak Hindi, and we do speak Hindi, but it's not the first language that we speak. And I swear I never said anything to encourage him, but he kept talking at me. He was driving at 10 miles per hour, breaking 100 metres out from the traffic lights so that every green light was red by the time he got to it. There were no other cars around. And he kept talking about India and saying, "You understand what I'm saying, right?" And he started demonstrating words that were different in Hindi and in his language, and they all sounded the same to me because I don't speak fucking Hindi. And he drifted into the curb and scraped along it for a while, and I was pretty sure he was going to murder me. I called Uber the next day, trying to blacklist him. I said, I found the assumption that I'd want to hear about his personal race issues because of the colour of my skin very offensive. But they said they couldn't do that, but they very kindly reduced the possibility of the algorithm pairing me with him again. And I guess that's enough. Because if Uber thinks it's not that big of a deal, then it's not, right? Here's a nice one. A North London tube station. A grubby one with tiles missing and yellow tape over the elevator. The outskirts. I was coming home from work and I was damp and bedraggled and I kind of just wanted a hot shower. I was in one of the little off-licence shops and I wanted to get a packet of cheese and onion crisps. There was this guy in the queue in front of me, blonde, and he asked for a packet of cigarettes with a thick Irish accent, and he didn't know what his money was worth. He said he just got off the boat and he was used to euros. He was short 20p, so I offered to pay it for him. Not because I was trying to be kind or make a move, I was just bored of waiting. So I held out the 20p and he said it was fine, and the shopkeeper sorted his change, smiled as he gave him his cigarettes. So he left and I bought my packet of crisps for the 20p. He was waiting when I went outside. He said thank you and that it was nice to know that people were still kind. He offered me a cigarette, but I said no because I was meeting my mum outside the station and I did not want her to smell smoke on me. And he said he didn't smoke either. And he lit a cig. I can't remember exactly what happened next. Can you recommend any good? It's my first time. Where are you? Actually, I do smoke. Please. I'm here to meet. Can I? My mum's from County Mayo. I'm half Irish, actually. I'm pretty sure they're all made up though. I'm pretty sure that I walked away from that conversation mortified at my inability to be normal. I remember calling my mum and telling her that I didn't meet her outside the station because a very beautiful person spoke to me and I didn't know what to say. I remember eating the crisps on the way home though. That part's pretty weird. I remember eating that packet of cheese and onion crisps with a disturbing clarity. But I can barely remember his face. The memory's all blurry, like looking through a wet lens. His voice stuck around though. The lilt of his accent. A foreigner from the country where half of my blood runs, a half that nobody ever sees. I would play that one in my head for hours on end sometimes, a million variations on nothing. The variations on being a foreigner though. Speaking to a foreigner in the country he assumes is mine. Someone who doesn't assume that you don't belong because they don't belong. Because I do belong. I was born here and I grew up here, and yes, I do have a fucking passport. I sound like I've got a chip on my shoulder, don't I? I don't mean to. The next day on the train, a man masturbated in front of me. He followed me through the train station with that hungry stare in his eyes and one hand down his trousers. And I think that says a lot about the nature of chance.
Your name was sewn into the seams of my body before I was born. Your hyacinths tattooed on my heart. You were so completely and utterly inevitable. We ran through those trees so often that I feel like I know where each one stands. I could measure the distance between each trunk with my hands. 5 hands left, 4.5 hands right, 3 more hands forward to your favourite spot to lie and look up through the branches. You like watching the clouds pass by, counting the colours that the sunset brings, tracing faces in the shadows of the leaves. Tag, you're it. Your hand trails along my arm. Everyone else has run ahead, and you smile as you walk backwards slightly. I feel like you're about to say something, but your lips don't move. And you turn around, shaking your head as you smile. You keep walking and I can't find my feet. Can't take the steps forward to follow you. I am rooted to the ground in your favourite spot to lie, my feet where your head usually lies, between the roots of the trees. You weave between the tree trunks, and the white of your shirt flashes and shrinks until you are swallowed up by green. Shouts are drifting through the trees. I leave your favourite spot and I run, past the stream, down the bank, through more trees and into a circle of laughter. But before I can graze someone's hand, there is more shouting and everyone runs away again, but you don't. You just smile as you walk backwards, taunting me to come closer. One step. I match it. 2, 3, 4. You shake your head a little and disappear into the green again. Every prank I pulled to be the centre of attention, to get your attention, you were silently watching and laughing with a book nestled in your lap, with all the grace of a duchess in your posture. We were children, yet you were timeless. You were a symphony of everything I wanted to be. I'm not sure when it started, but at some point I realised I was walking past your house on the way to school every day, slowing my feet as I approached just to savour any glance of you I could get. Imagining you would run out of the house with sleep-bleared eyes, tie askew and shout my name. What a happy coincidence, you would say. Shall we walk together? It never happened, though. Maybe your mother drove you to school. Maybe you're always 1 minute ahead of me. I found myself doing it on the way home as well. On the way to the shops, on the way to my friends' houses, my private detour down your street. I imagined your smile residing in one of the upstairs bedrooms, sleepily waiting to be let out. The papers for our history exams strewn across the table. Your school shoes messily dumped by the door. It didn't matter that I rarely saw you. It was enough to walk past that red brick facade and know that that was where you lived. The battlements of hyacinths guarding your castle. One day, you were in the garden. I was walking to the shops because Mum wanted milk. I took my private detour down your street and you came running out of the house barefoot. You started picking blackberries off the briars at the edge of your garden. You weren't collecting them, you were just eating them, your fingers staining black and blue. You caught my eye and, looking bashful, you smiled. I waved. I thought about stopping, about smiling and saying hello, but it seemed rude to disturb you, so delicate in your solitude. That day, I didn't listen to a single word because I was busy staring at your shoes, imagining where you'd put them when you got home from school. You started coming into my dreams, running circles around me, bare feet barely indenting the grass. One of your shoes on the floor of my. whenever I close my eyes, I see your smile. One of my favourite days together was the one we spent at the river. The sunlight looked so beautiful as it shone off the water. We spent all day building a raft. We found some blue, hollow barrels under the bridge, empty ones that float on water. Then we hunted through the forest for logs, medium-sized ones. Lots of them were too long, so we hit them against the steps to the bridge to make the ends break off. Someone stole some rope from a construction site. It's also blue. Then we tied the rope to the barrels to make a platform and tethered the end to a tree trunk. The rope's long enough for it to float out into the middle of the river. Our friends are out there now, climbing up and jumping off. If there are more than 4 people on it, it starts to sink. They keep pushing each other off. You're by yourself though, floating alone in the water, surrounded by stillness. Your swimming costume is blue and you're wearing a big white t-shirt over it. It's fanning out around you. I'm standing at the top of the bank, and from here, you are a vision from heaven. I got out the water because I was cold, but the sun isn't as warm as I thought it would be, and I'm shivering. I run down the bank and dive into the water. I swim towards you. The droplets sparkle as I splash. The sun catches the edge of each ripple. You don't move. You're too deep in your own world to notice me, or you're pretending not to notice me. Maybe you're a tease. I don't know yet. I just know you're this rare and ineffable thing. You're a creature of your own whims. I dive below the surface and swim under you. I reach my hands around your waist and I pull you down with me. You don't resist. You let me. Deep enough for the water to turn hot. My hands are around your waist. Your skin is warm and we are still. You kiss me. Without warning. Deeply. I never expected that from you. I can't describe how you made me feel. I don't have the words. It just seemed so simple. We were tentative those first few times, innocently exploring a territory we knew nothing about. Every touch was the first of its kind. But with every kiss, I became more accustomed to your hands, more addicted to your scent. Before long, I was constantly consumed with the need to have your lips on mine. I'd drag you into the bathrooms at school, crammed in between stools with your legs wrapped around me, the acrid smell of piss and smoke going unnoticed. Between cracked mirrors and graffitied walls, under the feeble flicker of the fluorescence. I never felt so alive. The bathrooms turned into corridors, pushing you up against the lockers between class. Cold metal. Warm bodies. Thin shirts. I put my hand up your skirt on the dance floor. Everyone knew, and no one cared. I didn't know there was any need to hide it. You know those stories from deep South America? Ones with parents kicking their children out the house with just the clothes on their back. They're heartbreaking, aren't they? I never understood how a parent could do that to their child, how anyone could do that to anyone else. Rejecting someone because of their sexuality always seemed so alien to me. Stories from a different time, an ancient time. Not something that could ever happen in my world. Not to me. I happily announced to my parents that I had a girlfriend. Seeing her gender as entirely insignificant when it came to love, because it is, isn't it? People can date whoever they want to. They didn't see it that way though. But you've dated boys before. You date boys. Yes, I'm bisexual. It means I can date both boys and girls. You're a slut. You'll fuck anything and everything. You're just sex crazed. You've gone off the rails. What is wrong with you? This is just a phase that you're going through. You're being a nymphomaniac. You're twisted. You're dirty. Do you have any idea what people will think of you if you go around saying you're bisexual? What will the neighbours think? And at school, oh my God, you haven't been going around telling the teachers, have you? They'll think you're having a mental breakdown. I am so ashamed of you right now. And what about in the future? You have no idea of how this will be perceived in the real world. People will look you up on Facebook before they hire you, and if they see you have a girlfriend, no one will want to hire you. What about when you meet a nice man and you have to tell him you used to date girls? No one is going to want to marry you. They'll think you're depraved. What did I do wrong as a parent to deserve this? Tell me what I did wrong. There is no way I'm going to continue to pay for your lifestyle if this is what you choose to do with it. How can you stand under my roof and look me in the eye after such a disgusting disregard for my parenting? I have raised you. I have loved you. I have given you everything. I do everything for you. Everything I do is for you. I can't even look at you right now. Bisexuality isn't real. It's just something people say when they want to fuck anyone who's interested. No. It doesn't mean I just sleep with anyone who's interested. I just fall in love with who a person is, not how we have sex. And I love her. You're warped. There's a lot of ways you can torture someone without physically hurting them. Let's leave that. I have nothing left to say about them. I just think it's difficult to love after you've experienced something like that. It changes how you relate to other people, but it also changes how you relate to yourself. I think accepting yourself again is the hardest part of it. I'm trying to work on it though. I try every day to never show anyone the kind of hate that I had to experience.
For it was July, when we were gifted the barely there caravan, our precious metal tin, which we mopped religiously with sloppy sacred honey from our pores, to ensure the same set of strangers bathed with us in golden light. We made up stories of weaponry and armour, rose-tinted helmets and swords crafted from Tesco's finest, to prepare for a transcendence to a sunset realm where boys and girls and spiders blur into one. My shadow comes through the door first. He demands a penny for my thoughts. I tell him I've lost all my pennies on the way over and I'm unable to help. I'm scared by the silence, but not sure he wants to speak to me anymore. Then comes Absalom, dressed far too fancy for a tea party. He pours himself a thimbleful of honey and blows heart-shaped rings into my face. My eyes are dulling. One is grey now. You could cut the air with a knife. He replies, telling me I make him feel young again and I feel like I want to be sick. Following in his footsteps is Toucan, who arrives with a conundrum of my childhood dreams. I tell him that peeking his beak where it is not wanted is uncouth and unkind. Lovely weather today, isn't it? I must refrain from vacuuming in the scent of lavender, wet dreams or off milk.
Yet I'm far too preoccupied with ensuring that everyone else is enjoying my company. I begin to caress the cracks in the plaster as the honey-seeped tones come through. I'm far too big for my boots, gobby and giddy. Everything is golden. The hair on my arms sway along to the rhythm of mania as my strangers dance with me, and I remind myself that I am half alive and awake. Tuka nods along. He understands the importance of being loved, and then comes you. When I left the caravan, I found all of my coppers. When I left the caravan, honey, you stopped me in my tracks. When I left the caravan, I could not return to my body. When I left the caravan, I narrowly escaped a chemical rot, a plague spread pores which slowly started to consume the outskirts of my body. To rid myself of the stale taste, I encased myself in dirt until I popped out like a flower in bloom, only to notice Aphrodite had turned me into a spider. It was such a shame you had arachnophobia. Nowadays, I'm watching modern day romances emerge on microwave screens. Hours mould days, illuminating newfound hands, my hands, on the clock face. The pitiful thing is, I can't remember what your face looks like. Sometimes I catch a glimpse on piggy bank pennies. I should have stayed when I had the chance. On birthdays, I drop the over-reliance on self-preservation and gift myself the ability to separate from my reflection until I'm confronted by a paralysing look. She's not meant to be awake. It is Q o'clock at flat A. Everyone has left. She slid down the side of the sofa, intoxicated from watching copious midnight walkers, drunkards and lovers. She whispers to the cake crumbs and deflated helium bloom which she occasionally hugs and then swats away to punish the tyrannical 22 that looms overhead, like a numerical Godzilla. She doesn't need a reminder. She's seeing feathers now. Big, fat, black ones, like the ones mums have when they've sold their souls to the school runs or those who hold the bags at fairs. She's sweating out acid, lactic, citric, nitric, phosphoric, sulfuric, salicylic, hydrochloric, which smear and tickle the innards of the eyeballs. She Googles illnesses that match leaking eyeballs. There aren't any. Must be cancer. it's always cancer. But listen to the whispers of her hat, which is growing a friendly face and now resembles a female fox. LMFAO, haps baps, happy B-day, have a drink on me. Happy birthday to my best gal. Love you. Have the best, bollocks. Her face is like a swimming pool now. A mirage of light on water of fairy blessed colours. She wants you to jump in. All because she is not the centre of attention anymore. Grow up. She's trying. Isn't that the true meaning of crocodile tears? Because Fox Hat tells me crocs don't cry. Each addition to the pool punctures the picture-perfect promises they made to each other. Yet she is confidently justified besides. It's just another day today. Bin day today. Fox wants havoc and Fox wants to be my baby. I should call her. She kisses Fox's forehead, thinking it's yours. It tastes rancid. Like that strange geezer off Tinder who ate an egg sandwich before booty calling her. Waxen vixen. Before you turn to stone again, make my expression as happy as yours and readjust my body to fit yours. Till we collapse together. I stay out even later this time. This is my 4th time out in a row and I'm eager to see how long the nights can carry me for. Here for the ride, or so they say. A piggyback tour of pina coladas, pink glitter and unlawful pharmaceuticals. I feel like a big scary man on my way home, invincible against the fever dream of early morning dog walkers and wrinkled suits. I wave back to the things that I know so well, the Jamaican chicken shop, the alleyway with the overflowing bin, the corner shop for crisps. Back at the bashed up, mashed up door to flat A, I form my keys into a dagger. I press it into my palm to maintain composure as I wrestle with the door that the landlord didn't want to fix. I dive in before the sun can follow me inside. It smells of rabbit straw. The man upstairs with the gated roof has flooded the floor. I swim on my back to the stairs. I want to play, but I'm scared that the dark will eat me if I stay too long. You ask why I do not turn on the lights? The answer is simple. They are cheap and make the world look yellow like I'm in an incubator. I do not wish to be a duckling in a coop. Pour another. The air tastes like vinegar. Only 1 glass left. The cupboard looks so lonely, its handle a sad face. Look, I'm sorry they smashed all the others. Now I'm all alone with my 1 glass and lonely cupboard. Well, what do I care? I've my own personal performing hutch. I squint and watch the rabbits eat up the rotting furniture as they fuck and multiply and engulf the kitchen. If I drink now, I might be able to sleep, and I should eat, but you know I hate cooking, so I grab the leftover spaghetti carbonara from Tesco with the yellow label and from the fridge. It's 2 days out. The kitchen seems foreign. I can't quite make out the outlines of the microwave, which shifts and pulsates as I puncture in the buttons. A symphony of spitting spaghetti. I think it's angry at me. It bubbles and growls and attacks my hand. I throw it in the bin. I vomit in the bin. Confetti and streamers and red wine ribbons to add to my one-man party. I wait up for you. The microwave tells me it's been a long time. I wouldn't do this for anyone else. I down the rest of my red wine, watching reruns of Static from childhood. I want to piss you off. A rabbit jumps onto my lap. I think you're angry at me. The rabbit licks my hand. I think he feels he is owed an apology. Do rabbits even lick hands? I think I've ruined the night again. Up now. The bathroom is a sanctuary. The seat keeps me safe, the paper protects me. I'm not having a bath, but running the water fights the silence. We don't have a doorbell, but I gave you a key. I just can't hear you come in because I'm throwing up again. Bed. I'm suffocated by feathers that I forgot to wash. I think I'm teetering between heaven and hell. I move in close. You move away from me. I love you. You do not reply. I think I might be becoming a duckling again. Or maybe an egg. Did God make the first duckling in an egg? I don't believe in God. But I pray to her in case I don't make it through the night. I fell down a rabbit hole again and found myself wandering in a wormwood haze, sniffing the grass and ripping the heads off of daisies. I lie my head on a molehill and wait for its owner to bite me. Today's wonderland tastes blue. I put my hands into the wet soil and it dries up as I touch it. I pressed my lips to the soil and smelled the yellow. I'm very certain that I was born from this handful of soil. I spit on it. It remains dry. I rub it into my knees. I have a moment of blind panic. Someone help, please. No one comes, obviously. It's very early, very late. I am half alive, half dead. I pour a tear off my cheek and eat it. It tastes pink. My skull is full of saliva and there's a mandala blooming in my stomach. I start to grow wings. Skeletal wings. featherless, smooth, ugly, weak. I flap them, but I cannot fly. The crows laugh at me. You need feathers to be able to fly. So I beg them earnestly, and they each gift me a feather, but 5 feathers cannot cover the gross mass of my wings. I give up learning to fly and fall down the hill. I wake up on a sidewalk, asking strangers for lighters and tracing the lines on my hand, trying to find a way home. I do not know who I am anymore. Once again, mildly inebriated in a foreign car park. I feel like God. Therefore in heaven I will feel like a foreign car. I'm undertaking the ritual of drinking stale piss under the light of my own shrine, gifted with hot stuff, hot pink confetti, and hot breath with glitter teeth. A new religion where Weatherspoons is sanctuary and congregation is the safe word. I'm intoxicated from people watching again, wishing solely for fish fingers and overpriced white wine and our bodies fumbling together at the beach. Hold my hand down by where old men play bowls, where time is fabricated and I am the seamstress. Encapsulated by rock pools of domesticated bliss. Am I the adulterous woman the Bible foretold? Or am I a promiscuous pufferfish? A darker underbelly of convoluted mould? Kiss my neck and count the dogs on heat to find and monitor my transmigration, such that you may readjust my body to fit yours, if you must. I would rather fritter over the small print in discarded receipts and turn them into wish lists of things I should have treasured. Note to self. Parties where I am not the centre of attention are not worth attending. I should instead stay where I can control the men with my mind, for I am a revolutionary. Defying the patriarchy with sheer telepathy, I must reiterate the importance of being loved by all. Once again, mocking people with my unvoiced thoughts while simultaneously wanting to burrow inside. I've been on the waltzer for too long. I want to get off now, shit-faced, face full of shit, face down, in sick, on a foreign street with a funny name. Sounds something like Ferret at the Feral Disco. BRB, ROFLX. I'll give him a good old fish finger FaceTime, couple of face value facts. I'll tell him, the usual please, I don't need them. I'm an oddball going against the grain. I think this is purgatory. I'm back in the womb and I secretly hope you still want me, as I try to recall every detail of you until I fall asleep. Okay. Beautiful. Pretentious. Bloodstains on bedsheets crying into each other. Birthday cards bandaged in bum fluff. Unprecedented. Cautiously catastrophic. That one present on Christmas Eve. Silver Spoon service on roller skates, Brighton Pier, sophisticated beyond our years. Curry club on a Thursday. The morning after night out sex, sunbathing on a neighbour's roof, seeing an electric blue dragonfly in a place it doesn't belong. I was sad happy. I do want to touch you again with you. Sometimes I wonder who do you now turn to in your times of need? I'm just thankful you still talk to me in my sleep. This morning I painted my nails gold, and then I painted a see-through purple colour on top, and wiped them on my bed sheets and smudged them on my t-shirts, and then I got in a bath. But when I got in I realised that it was full of big white rubbery flakes that had fallen from the ceiling, and when I tried to fish them out they just kind of broke up and moved apart. So I pulled my nail varnish off to add the purple gold flakes to the mess, and I thought about masturbating for a while, but it seemed like it might be a bit of a gratuitous action, so I didn't. And when I got out, the varnish and paint had kind of stuck to me, and when I tried to rub it off, it wouldn't come off, it just kind of broke up and moved around. So I had a shower, but I still had some gold bits on me, so I gave up and went to the pub. And there wasn't really anyone good looking there, so I went back with this guy who turned out to be on a coke binge, so I probably shouldn't have let him drive. And he was nice, just not that hot. And he wasn't very good in bed. So I gave him a fake number, but in the morning he wouldn't leave. He just rubbed his dick on my arse and then came onto my pants after 2 seconds. So I had a very long shower with the door locked, and he tried the door. I think he got the hint because when I got out he wasn't there and nothing was stolen, so that's a positive. But the whole experience was a bit underwhelming. So I tried to masturbate, but I couldn't really get anywhere, so I just lay in bed next to my vibrator for a while and thought about going on Tinder. So I found some carbon copies of my ex and went back to one of theirs house, but he wasn't a very good kisser. So I went to the pub. And that was nice, and there was this bartender that kept smiling at me, so I gave him my number and I went out to buy cigs, and I considered buying a lottery ticket, but I thought it might be a waste of time. So I went back to the pub and I decided that no one in there was very pretty. So I went back to the guy from Tinder's house and had incredibly underwhelming sex, and it was all a bit too much. So I went on a really long drive and stood in a field and screamed at the sky. And there was something that I was supposed to do, but I can't remember. So I made a list of all the places that I'd like to be buried and drank half a bottle of warm vodka that I found in my trunk. And in the morning I found some red nail varnish from my handbag and flicked it all over the interior of my car, but in retrospect it doesn't really look like modern art, it just kind of looks like someone's been shot. But it didn't really bother me enough to fix it, so I tried to sleep, but I couldn't really get comfortable, and the sun was really bright by that point, so I did more screaming in the field and then drove home. And I thought about drugs, just like generically considered all of them, but I thought it might just be a waste of time, and then I had a really overwhelming urge to call my ex, and so I cried for a bit and then threw my phone at the wall, and I felt a lot better. And then I went out for drinks with this guy. But he lives in a flat that looks exactly like my ex. And every time I got close to coming, I could just hear my ex tell me he loved me, and so I couldn't really do it, and it was a little bit sad. And I could just smell the scent of stale sweat. Like, it might have been mine, but then it might have been his, but either way I was starting to feel very sick and the sky outside was turning grey. So I left when he was sleeping and walked home under the grey sky and lit a cigarette, and I felt really lonely. And I considered walking to the train station and getting on the next train, but it might be a bit of an expensive idea. So I called my friend in Paris, but she didn't pick up because she must have been asleep, so it's kind of understandable. So I just left a voice message asking if I could come to Paris next weekend. And when I got home, I still couldn't sleep, so I smoked some cigarettes and watched the sunrise by myself for a first time in a long time. And the orange colours made me feel good, so I decided to put some sheets that I got from Urban Outfitters last week on my bed. You know, the ones with the pink flowers and yellow vines. And I got in. But they smelled of warm plastic, and I thought that maybe I should have washed them first, and it started to make me feel a little bit sick. So I took the new sheets off my bed and put the dirty sheets back on my bed, but the plastic smell had stuck to my skin. So I poured myself a whiskey and had a bath full of flakes. And I remembered that I should probably be in work, so I called up, but no one answered, so I'm guessing it doesn't really matter that much. And if you think about it, getting fired is just like a natural part of life. It's almost necessary, really, so I shouldn't worry about getting another job. But I did look up other ways that I could earn money, and I came up with nothing. So I went to the pub, and there wasn't really anyone good looking there, but that cute bartender texted me, so I went back to her house. And that was fun, but sex with a woman just isn't as satisfying as you think it's going to be, so I didn't stay, and she kissed me goodbye and told me to text her, and as I walked away I blocked her, which, yeah, in hindsight does seem a little bit harsh, but it felt quite necessary, and I like necessary actions. Then I walked home and the sky was grey again, and my key got stuck in the door. I tried to masturbate, but just when I was getting close to coming, my vibrator died. So I tried fingering myself for a while, but then gave up on orgasming and tidied my room, but there wasn't actually that much to tidy, so I just straightened my books and smoked some cigarettes, and I found a pack of straights down the side of my bed, but a man must have left them because I don't smoke Sterling, and I made a list of all the things that I wanted to do that day and had a large cup of coffee and watched the sunrise and smoked a cigarette. But it didn't lift my mood. So I went on a really long aimless walk and didn't get any things that I wanted to get done on my list because I went back to the pub. And I used up all my money on slot machines and didn't win anything. And there was this guy there that knew my name, but I can't remember how I know him. And it was Sunday, so the pub was closing really early. And everyone was talking about how they had work tomorrow. And I didn't say anything because at this point, I've most definitely been fired. But the more I think about it, the more I just don't care. So we went back to this guy's house to carry on drinking and smoke something. And there was this guy there that I know in a transient way. And I fantasize about having sex with him. And I remember the last time we kissed. And I get this feeling in my chest. And it's strangely visceral. So I pour myself another whiskey and then go to the bathroom to reply to some more Tinder messages, and then